Now, last week, Joel Osteen was in the news, and he received major backlash for when Tropical Storm Harvey hit the Houston area. He had refused to open up his church. Then after the backlash, he opened up the church, and he got on TV trying to say he didn't do that. Then also the same week, we received pictures from a medical volunteer that showed us that donations were just sitting in Lakewood Church behind an armed guard. So we thought, well, maybe they finally got their act together. Then we noticed yesterday, right on the page of Yahoo, there was more controversy coming out of Lakewood Church. There was a service that happened on August the 30th. Now, the backlash started around the 28th. We did our first video on the 29th. And so the following day, that 30th, they had a Wednesday night service. Now, I want to play for you just two short clips from that service that they actually deleted from their website. But understand, the time of the internet, the moment you put something up, people could screen capture it just like that. And it is what it is. So I want to play for you that is Joel Osteen's sister. She's going to acknowledge that the people went through a flood. Then I'm going to play the next clip. It's going to show them collecting tithes and collecting offerings, even though they are acknowledging that people dealt with a flood and lost everything.
And so all of these people that have stood tonight, and they have needs, financial needs, and I just feel like we should pray for them, that God is going to bless them with unprecedented favor in the next coming days and the next coming weeks and the next coming months, because they have a lot of calls to make, they have a lot of work to get done, and their life is so interrupted. But you know what? We can trust God that it can go smoother than anyone could ever imagine. And so I wish y'all would stand up again, those of you that have been affected, and I wish you would just, if those of you around them, you would just touch them, hold hands with them. Those of you that have been affected by the flood, stand up. Let's touch them. Let's just let them know we're praying for them, and let's believe right now that God is going to move supernaturally in their favor. Do you believe that? God bless you as you give.
That video made me sick to my stomach, because this church has enough money to give if they chose to those people. The pastor himself is making about $50 million a year on average. Now, he lives in River Oaks. Anybody know about River Oaks that's from the Houston area know that you can't just ride around in River Oaks. River Oaks actually has its own police department. And let them catch you riding around there, they'll pull you over so quick. Now, Joel Osteen, he has a 17,000 square foot home that's over $10 million. Now, me personally, I don't care how much money I get. I don't need that, because that's way too much. I told my wife, we were discussing this story, I said maybe 5,000 square feet, maybe 6, and that's pushing it, because maybe I want to put, a media studio and other things separate away from the home, but still on the property. That's one thing. But just to have 17,000 square feet, and it's just only me and my wife and maybe my kids, that's way too much. But aside from that, those people suffering, and you had an attitude and a face, come on, you was, but you want to hide it behind a smile, that people was in the church. You didn't want them in there at all, and you being exposed. And then you have some people who defend him and try to give excuse for him, but I'm sorry, if you have Mattress Mac opening up a private business and saying, let them be on the couches and let them be on the beds, it's just stuff. He didn't have to do that. When you want to take a role of a church and say you are a place of refuge for people to come to, then that's what you're supposed to be. And then the people who defended him were saying, well, why didn't they go to the nightclubs that they like to go to? And why don't they go to these places they love to visit? They never come to the church of this and that and the third. But you know what? The church isn't just for the members. At least according to the Bible I read, the church is for anybody that needs help and salvation. Not just for those who are cutting the check every Sunday, a tenth of their income. But really, Lakewood is being exposed. And a lot of people who, of course, get into try to defend him say, well, what about all the other churches? And what? Let me tell you something. When you are the biggest and you say you are the biggest church in Houston, you're going to be pointed out. It's just that simple. You can't compare a church who has 50 members to 100 members and tell them they should do the same thing as Lakewood. No, that's not the way it works. To whom much is given, much is required. It's just that simple. And when you didn't do that, you set off the wrong precedent. You didn't admit that you were wrong at the time period. You still was doing other stuff. And now this. So any person, especially anybody who got some sense, see all this stuff going on with Lakewood and you still go over there and defend that, then you worshiping man. You're not worshiping God, because if you knew good and well what the scriptures had to say, the scriptures are not supporting collecting money and not doing for the people. Like, do you skip a Sunday when you collecting? I mean, seriously, why are you collecting that much constantly? I mean, even just hearing that one time that they got robbed of a $600,000 from one service. Most people in churches don't collect that at all. That's why I said if I had anything to do with it, that 501c3 would be totally redone, because that 501c3 is being abused, in my opinion. Because I feel any church or religious organization that's collecting over $10,000 in a month in tithes and offerings, then they need to be taxed on it. I'm not saying the most expensive tax, but I'm saying they need to be taxed on that. And those taxes should go to disaster relief fund for the people, not for weapons for the government, not to senators, not wasting money in the, no, none of that. Go directly to the disaster relief fund to help people in storms and times of need. That way, I think it would be a fair tax going to a fair thing. Because if you're collecting $600,000 or millions of dollars a month and it's all tax free, no one gets away tax free. Trust me, I wish I was tax free. I mean, when I had to do my taxes, how me and my wife, our heads was banging. We was shaking our head, and because paying taxes to the IRS sucks. And they get millions of dollars and they ain't got to pay a dime. Not a single cent to the IRS. But the rest of us that's working and or have businesses or whatever, we got to pay everything to the IRS. I think that 501c3 is a good thing, but it just needs to have a limit, in my opinion. And when you're sitting up here collecting money from people that went through a flood, I mean, have you no restraint and no shame? I mean, come on. I mean, I think you could miss a few Sundays, Joel, without collecting money. Don't you think? Those poor people don't have anything. They lost it all, a lot of them. And they go into church to try to get some sort of faith in their heart and bring up their spirits. And instead of giving them that, you give them a collection plate. I don't know. And especially to some of the black people, because black people are the most religious people in America. If you go up in there, I'll just shake my head. You get what you deserve on that. Because the man is showing you who he really is at this point. Just like Mattress Mac showed people who he really was. Times of crisis and struggle show people who they really are. Exposes the hearts of men and women. And his heart and their heart exposed. Money means more than God. Well, remember the scriptures teach you can't serve two masters. You're either going to love one or hate the other. You can't serve both God and money. It's just that simple. So if you're serving money, then obviously you have a hatred for God, because if you love God, you will love people enough to do what he wants you to do with his children. Correct? But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this. Share the video, like the commentary, and subscribe for more news stories.